I wasn't sure what they saw in it, this jagged old stump with no roof, not much shelter or protection. But they chose it anyway, and so I began to watch. It was June 12th when I saw this odd occurrence. A pair of black-capped chickadees taking turns dipping down into an old snag. Each time they came back up, they carried out bits of wood in their tiny beaks. They were digging, shaping something, a hollow for a nest. And that part wasn't unusual. Chickadees are cavity nesters after all. But this cavity, it wasn't like any I'd seen before. It was low to the ground, no more than 4 feet high. Worse still, it had no roof. It was wide open to the sky. All the cavity nests I'd seen before were tucked safely into the trees, closed off, protected from the rain, the heat, from predators above. This one, it felt exposed, fragile, vulnerable. I figured they might abandon it. I wasn't convinced they were serious, and truthfully, I didn't think much more about it that day. But sometimes the stories that move you most begin with quiet uncertainty. A week passed before I came back down that trail. I wasn't planning to stop, but as I neared the snag, I took a quick peek inside. And there she was. Tucked low in the hollow, the little female sat inside the nest they had dug. And I remember thinking, my goodness, girl, you're so exposed. No roof above, no cover, but what a view of the night sky you must have. It hadn't rained yet, maybe that's why it was working so far. Still, I wondered what would happen when the storms came, or when something curious wandered by. I left quietly and decided not to come back down too soon, just in case my footsteps brought more than curiosity. I hadn't returned in 10 days. Ever since realizing she was truly nesting in that open old stump, I tried to keep my distance, to give her space and to avoid drawing attention to the place. Still, I wondered about her, especially after we had some heavy rain. When I finally came back, the female was out, and inside were 5 tiny eggs, just resting there in the hollow, quietly defying everything I had worried about. Maybe I was wrong to underestimate her. Other birds nest in open spaces all the time, in crooks of trees and branches that sway and drip and creak. Perhaps this isn't so strange after all. I realized then she wasn't just hopeful, she was resourceful. She had made this forgotten stump into something warm and something that worked. So I began calling her Little Hearth. Not out loud, but just in my thoughts. I'm trying to not get emotionally connected, and although she seems to have proven me wrong, I don't want to lean too heavily on hope. The nest is still vulnerable, and everything can change in an instant. By my best guess, it had been about 12 days since Little Hearth began incubating. For black-capped chickadees, that's usually enough time. On July 1st, when I cautiously checked the hollow, 3 tiny chicks had hatched. Little Canada Day chicks. 2 eggs still remained, but those first little lives had already begun. I stayed back for a while, and Little Hearth came and went, but I couldn't confirm seeing her mate. I waited an hour, but he didn't seem to be here. I wanted to stay to see, but the longer I lingered, the more I worried about drawing the wrong kind of attention, so I left before I could be sure. I hope he's there and I just missed him. I don't know how Little Hearth could do this on her own. It had been a couple days since I last checked on them. This time when I peered in, Little Hearth was there, warming the nestlings beneath her. It was a good sign that all was well, and that the male must be too. I set up my camera at a distance, hoping to catch a glimpse of him, and when he came carrying food for his young, my heart felt lighter than I expected. It's strange how quickly you begin to care. I don't know these birds, and yet for some reason, this chickadee family is hitting at something deep inside of me, but I can't seem to name it. Little Hearth left just as he arrived. It's something chickadee pairs do. The male takes over briefly while the female is given a moment out of the nest. When he was done feeding the nestlings, I had a brief window to check the nest. All 5 nestlings were there, looking healthy, tiny, pink, and impossibly vibrant. I watched from a distance as life continued around me. A white-throated sparrow, one I've known for years, landed nearby, harmless to the chickadees. I gave him a small treat and off he went. It felt like the woods had opened a little that day, like I was no longer just an observer, but someone being welcomed. And though I hadn't given him a name yet, I began to think of the male as Quiet Wing. Always near, always watchful, the kind of presence you don't notice right away, but come to rely on just the same. Each day I returned, the white-throated sparrow came too, a familiar little soul, always arriving as if he knew the rhythm of things. I'd begin by checking the snag. Just a quick peek inside to be sure all was well. And then I'd set up my camera outside to wait for the parents. Without fail, they came, Little Hearth and Quiet Wing, in and out, feeding, doing what they do. To record what's going on inside, I have to use my old Samsung Galaxy. Not what I wanted to use. I would have liked to use my camera, but it's so bulky and hard to set up for peering inside such a dark hollow. The GoPro couldn't zoom in, so my old Samsung Galaxy became the eye into the nest. I do use my Sony for the outside shots though, well away from the nest so that it doesn't draw attention to it. I also wish I had a way to see inside all the time, like I've done with nest boxes before, but I wouldn't dare tamper with something so fragile. Not here. Not for the sake of footage. This will have to do, and honestly, it already feels like enough. When I checked the snag today, Little Hearth was there, keeping her chicks warm and close. I waited a while, watching for Quiet Wing. And when they were both briefly away, I took a quick look inside. One of them opened its bill at the sound of my phone touching the outside ledge, likely thinking food had arrived. The nestlings are starting to grow in their feathers, soft dark lines beginning to shape their tiny wings. It's been getting dry here lately, no rain in some time, and the heat's starting to build. I can't help but worry. With no roof above them, how hot does it get inside that hollow? Still, at least they've been spared the rain so far. I find myself comparing this chickadee family to another one I'm watching, Inky and Filbert. There's a big difference though. Inky and Filbert have what I call a luxurious home, with plenty of room, shelter from the rain, and protection from predators. Little Hearth and Quiet Wing don't have that. There's such a contrast here. While I do care about Inky and Filbert wanting the best for them, I'm feeling more moved by Little Hearth and Quiet Wing. It's been 8 days since they hatched, and the nestlings are changing quickly. There's not much pink showing anymore. Their feathers are coming in, slowly covering what was once bare and fragile. They're still sleepy, as nestlings tend to be at this stage. They shift and twitch now and then, but their awareness hasn't quite bloomed yet. That'll come in a few more days. Little Hearth and Quiet Wing came and went with steady rhythm. Food in, waste out. A perfect partnership. I've come to admire how carefully she checks her surroundings before entering. A glance here, a pause there, then a quick dart inside. Smart girl. My little white-throated sparrow friend came by again today, always a comfort. I stayed back a respectful distance as I always do, and stayed only long enough to watch for a while. I've never tried to film inside the nest while Quiet Wing and Little Hearth are in there feeding their young. I know how distracting that could be, and they don't need that. They just need space to do what they do. Little Hearth and Quiet Wing were as busy as ever today, in and out, feeding and cleaning. My white-throated sparrow friend visited again too. A few others came along as well. The woods seemed to come to life when I arrived. Wah. While little Hearth was away for a moment, I peeked inside the hollow. The nestlings were their usual sleepy selves, uninterested in much, eyes half closed, soft feathers growing in day by day. They are filling out the nest cup, getting bigger with each passing visit. I tried keeping myself detached a little and just being a quiet observer, watching from the edges, keeping my distance, but I'm not just watching anymore. I'm truly hoping for them, wanting so badly for this to all work out. I find myself thinking about them when I'm not here. When I arrived today, little Hearth was inside the nest. She looked up as I peered in, and I couldn't help but wonder what she must think when she sees me, this giant shape hovering above her world. I'm sure it's intimidating, and I'm always sorry for that part of being here. Quiet Wing arrived shortly after with food, and the two of them went about their usual flow. But something was different today. For the first time, they came toward where I was watching. I held out my hand. First Quiet Wing took a seed, then little Hearth. And they came back for more. Watching them fly away with their little treasures to tuck away felt like a gift, not just of trust, but of connection. They're not really tame and they're not pets, but for a moment we met each other halfway. While they were off enjoying their seeds, I checked the nest. The chicks are developing well, their black caps starting to show, their bodies bigger, their movements more purposeful. They're growing fast now. The white-throated sparrow came again, as always, our little daily ritual now. And somewhere nearby, a Tennessee warbler sang its sweet summer tune. It made everything feel softer somehow, like nature itself was humming a lullaby. When I arrived today, little Hearth was gone. One of them even gave a little snake display, that quick open-mouth warning posture they sometimes use to scare off intruders. That's likely the female, since they are the ones who use it. Since I'm getting to know these two better now, I feel that the nicknames I gave them, Little Hearth and Quiet Wing, don't feel like enough anymore. They deserve more than just titles based on how I saw them from a distance. They've welcomed me in. So, today I gave them proper names. She is Ada, a name that feels quietly strong, simple, dignified, a name for someone who makes do with what she has and makes it work. And he is Saul, always nearby, always present, a quiet, steady warmth. I still whisper their nicknames in my thoughts sometimes, but Ada and Saul, those are the names that feel right to me. When I arrived today, Ada was out of the nest, and to my surprise, one of the nestlings was awake and unbothered, calmly preening its tiny feathers. Their eyes are wider now, their movements more deliberate. They are starting to look more like chickadees. There's something remarkable about watching consciousness begin to take shape, the moment when a creature starts to notice its world and its place in it. The white-throated sparrow came, of course. At this point, I think we both expect to see each other. Ada and Saul came in and out feeding the nestlings. Between visits, they'd fly down in that soft, bouncy flight to me. Saul is still a little cautious, but Ada, she's all open wings. You'd think she wouldn't be after all the times I've peered into her nest. I noticed that she takes 2 seeds at once, an endearing little trait of hers. Saul doesn't do that. It made me wonder if she's a more submissive member of the flock she came from. In chickadee societies, young females are often lower in rank. Maybe it's a habit she learned from feeders, taking 2 at a time just in case she doesn't get another turn. The more I get to know her, the deeper I feel something for her. It's hard to describe, but I think I'm starting to understand. Ada, working the ragged old stump into her workable home, and learning to take 2 seeds at once to get through tough times, reminds me of someone. When I was a child, we didn't have much, but our mom made the best of it. She made do, she held things together, Not because it was easy, but because she had to. And now, watching Ada, I see that same spirit. That must be why I'm drawn to Ada, why I feel more for her than Inky. I can relate to Ada. Each passing day inches closer to their departure. I'm way more involved emotionally than I planned to be. Now, every time I make my way toward their humble little snag, I carry a bit of worry with me. Will they still be there? Has anything found them? That small rush of relief comes over me when I see them. It's amazing how quickly they grow. Their beaks open slightly now, trying to cool off in the heat. It hasn't rained in days. The sun has been steady, and I can only imagine how hot it gets in that roofless hollow at high noon. But Ada and Saul continue to care for them without pause. They fly in with food, they take away waste, and somehow they make time for me. I love that. It feels like a gift I didn't ask for and never expected. In fact, this whole thing does.
Girl, Ada.
Today was disheartening. When I looked into the nest, I only counted 4 heads, not 5. I looked again, took a moment, scanned cautiously, still just 4. There were no signs of trouble, no obvious damage, no disturbance, but something had changed. Did one of the nestlings die? From the heat? From something I couldn't see? I don't know. And not knowing, that's the part that gets to me. It's been sitting with me all day. That strange ache of not being able to fix, to help, or even understand. I always want a good outcome. I want it all to work out. Perfect if I could help it. But nature doesn't offer that kind of promise. I didn't have much time to stay. Other important things pulled me away. But I did see Ada and Saul coming and going, just as they always do. They looked fine, still doing their part. Still, I can't shake this feeling that something might be wrong. Maybe I was right about this nest not being a good choice. I woke up with them on my mind, Ada, Saul, and their little ones. It's 16 days since they hatched. Fledging could happen any day now. A big part of me was hoping that maybe, just maybe, I'd been wrong yesterday. That the 5th chick had simply been tucked beneath the others. That today I'd look in and count 5 again. It was still 4, but at least nothing else seemed to happen. I thought of Inky and her little ones so safe inside a nest box. I wanted Ada and her little ones to have that. I don't think one of them would have been missing if they did. The white-throated sparrow greeted me as I arrived like he always does, a comforting little presence in the middle of something I can't fix.
Hi, baby.
It hit 35 degrees at one point, so dry, so hot. There are wildfires going on in other locations, so I'm hoping for rain, but I'm also worried about the nestlings if it does. So far for their existence, they haven't experienced rain. Ada and Saul moved in and out of the nest several times. They fluttered down to me with their happy, bumblebee-like flight, as if nothing had changed. I fed them and watched them fly back to the nest, and I couldn't help but wonder, what do they know that I don't? What did they understand about the 5th chick that I never will? Any day now, maybe even tomorrow, the chicks could fledge. I just hope no more are lost. The air feels heavier each time I arrive, partly from the heat, but more from the worry. I carry that same silent hope. Maybe today, maybe I'll see 5 again. But it's always 4. 4 little faces looking up at me, bringing a rush of relief that's quickly shadowed by that quiet ache I still can't shake. They are louder now. I can hear them well before I reach the snag. One even crawled up toward the edge today. Not quite ready, but getting close. There's awareness in them, something stirring. I can't help but worry, though, about predators and about all the things I can't protect them from. The white-throated sparrow came again a few times, carrying food to its own fledglings. A few others joined, and their songs wove gently through the heat. Good little sparrows, not like the house sparrows who would have posed a threat to Ada and Saul's nestlings. Ada and Saul worked as they always do, in and out, feeding, checking, cleaning, and when they could, they came to me. That little bumbly, bouncy flight, it hasn't lost its charm. When I left, I wondered if they'd fledge today and I'd miss it. All chicks were still in the nest today. I didn't miss the fledging. I went on to visit my other bird buddies, and shortly after, the rain started. It's been weeks, so we need this. The woods have been so dry, and the fire risk grew with every passing day. I felt relief for the forest, but worried for the nest. After all, their nest is just a hollow in a broken stump, open to the sky. On my way back, I checked. They looked surprisingly dry, but the rain had only started and it was light. Once I got home, it intensified, beating down with force. Sitting inside all dry felt wrong. They were out in it, so I suited up and headed back. What's an hour of my time in some soaked clothes if it means making sure they are okay? When I looked in again, I saw beads of water rolling off their little heads. But they didn't look drenched. No sign of water pooling in the nest either. Somehow it was holding up. Still though, if they had a nest box like what Inky's little ones have, they would definitely be better off. They are 18 days old now. I thought maybe they'd fledge today, but the rain could have held them back. Maybe it will be tomorrow. It was much nicer today. Still hot, but not as humid, a little more forgiving. Honestly, I didn't expect the nestlings to still be there when I arrived, but there they were. I guess the rain didn't hold them back after all. Up until this point, I normally only stayed 20 minutes or so, but this time I stayed for much longer since I was expecting them to fledge. I kept back from a distance and remained quiet. The parents came and went as they usually do. The white-throated sparrows dropped by often, regular pleasant visitors. By 2:30 I capped off my visit. No one had fledged, and by then I figured they wouldn't. Most alterial birds leave in the morning or early afternoon. Before I left, I looked in one last time. They were still moving around restlessly. And later I saw that my outside camera had caught one of them peeking out. I'm not expecting to see them in the nest tomorrow when I arrive. I wasted no time getting to the nest this morning, but I wasn't expecting to find them still there. It is 20 days after all. I arrived just after 8 a.m. and when I peeked in, I only saw 3. One must have fledged before I got there. At least I hope that's what happened. I've seen that with my nest box before, one chick leaving long before the others. Maybe it was the curious one I saw peeking out yesterday. Fledging in the morning, not right after sunrise, but early enough, is thought to give fledglings more time to find shelter, get used to their wings, and avoid predators, since they are most active just after sunrise and just before sunset. Today I decided to stay from much further away. I didn't want to risk drawing attention to the nest or delay their departure. They needed their space today more than ever. I checked in briefly a half hour later. All 3 nestlings were still there, so I reset the camera and returned to my spot, just within an earshot. Another half hour later, I heard Ada and Saul. Slowly and cautiously, I made my way back, and when I looked in, the nest was empty. I could hear the little ones nearby in the trees and shrubbery. I caught it the moment they stepped into the world, something I didn't think I was going to get. How sweet those little ones were. How proud I felt for them. And for Ada, and for Saul. Their hard work paid off. They are out there now learning to be chickadees. Before I left, I set out some food for Ada and Saul, just a little thank you, and then I went home. This family needs their space now. Ada proved me wrong. She showed me just how hardy these little birds are. The risks they take, the tireless work, the quiet determination. Busy little deeds, yes, but also something more. Survivors. Even during loss, when they lost one of their nestlings, they didn't get bogged down by grief. They carried on, pouring care into the ones that remained. Watching her while Inky tended her brood in the safety of our nest box gave me such perspective. No wonder Inky returns here year after year. And I find myself wishing the same safety for Ada, and hoping to offer her that refuge next spring. Ada's choice of that old broken snag, roofless, weathered, half-forgotten, struck me deeply. She turned it into a home, and in that I saw a reflection of my own childhood. We didn't have much, but we made do, and it was enough. Ada was like a mirror of that truth, what it means to work with what you have. And it made me wonder how many other families can relate to that same story. Ada showed me that a home doesn't always need to be grand or sheltered to matter. What it needs is care and devotion. That was enough for her little family. And Saul, he taught me something different, but just as important. He reminded me that not all strength is loud. Sometimes it's steady, almost invisible, the kind that shows up again and again even when fear is close by. Saul's way was cautious, patient, and devoted. A gentler kind of courage, but no less vital. I didn't expect to feel so much for them. I thought I was just observing, but I wasn't. I was learning, and I was remembering. Their roofless nest carried more than eggs. It carried lessons, it carried echoes of my own story, and ultimately it carried hope. 2 weeks later, I saw them again, and with them, a few of their little ones. They were okay, still all together. And once again, I got a glimpse into their little family. I truly hope you enjoyed this little documentary. It was definitely one of the most touching stories I've shared. And if you're interested in Inky and Filbert's nesting journey, click the video on the screen now. Thanks for watching. Happy birding. Inky wasted no time getting down to work. Filbert, her mate, stopped by with a food offering. A tiny gesture with big meaning in bird language. I can provide for a family.